call my partner A. A was about 14 to 15 years old when all this went down. Living in New Mexico, we weren't strangers to weird sightings and whatnot. Skinwalkers, spirits, etc. But it's still very frightening. She lived in a trailer park outside of Farmington and in the middle of Kirtland, if that makes sense. This trailer park was practically in the middle of nowhere, next to the hills, as we call them. And more so specifically for her, because her trailer was in the very last row of the trailer park. It was next to a little playground which led to empty hills. That'll be important for later. Before the whole sighting she had, there were some weird occurrences prior to that. This all happened around February to June in 2015. A would hear taps at her window, specifically 3 loud taps like someone was banging on the window. She said that you could tell that it was a little tap since you could hear the nail on the fingernails. One night while staying up late playing video games in June, A eventually got sick of hearing those taps every night at around 1 to 2 a.m. She decided to look out her window and see what it was. She thought it could have been a tree or maybe some random druggie, but oh boy, it wasn't. After she lifted the makeshift curtain blanket, she didn't have blinds. A saw a hunched, gray-skinned humanoid thing. It was very thin and bony, having very long appendages. The way it was hunched over was as if someone was sneaking outside of their friend's house to tap on their window and get their friend's attention without getting caught. Its arms were retracting back as if it had just finished tapping. Its hands had 3 fingers, long and bony, just like everything else about it. The best way A can describe the way it looked would be to think of a long finger that was sharp at the end like a wooden stake that would be used to kill a vampire. Not exactly like claws, but not like a human finger either. Its face looked very stretched, like it would fall off at any point. Its mouth was stuck into this creepy grin/grimace that was perfectly showing of its jagged teeth. Think of like a shark tooth or broken beer bottle glass. They didn't really have a nose, just 2 slits like Voldemort. The eyes were big, hollow holes, black and just endless void that cover up the majority of the upper parts of its head. When it saw A, it stood up to its full height and stepped, not jumped, stepped over the 7-foot backyard fence and walked into the playground. The whole time it hobbled towards the direction multiple dogs in that area were going haywire, barking and growling like an intruder was about. A was freaked out, obviously, and stepped away from the window and went the rest of her night terrified. A couple days later, specifically the day she turned 15, A heard another tap on her bedroom window that night which she had ignored. A couple hours later, A woke up to the sound of something scratching her closet door from the inside. A, at this point, had no animals. Hearing that scratching, she booked it out of her room and slept in the living room for that night. No incidents occurred for a week after that until one day. A was home. Her sister and mom had gone to the grocery store to go shopping and wouldn't be home for a few hours. Being a teenager home alone, she was playing her video games in her room when she heard a voice somewhere in the house that sounded like her sister calling her name. So assuming they were back from grocery shopping, A left her room, thinking her sister was calling her to help her get the groceries, but she found no one in the house. The car was still gone. A went back to her room, dismissing what she had heard and chalked it up to her imagination. 30 minutes later, she heard it again. Previously, while looking, she checked every single room besides one, her sister's room, which always unsettled her, and she was told to keep out of it, obviously, so she didn't bother looking in there. That's where the voice was coming from. As soon as A stepped through the door and turned on the light, she felt an unsettling presence in the air. The voice called out again, and it sounded garbled and echoey, kind of like it was reverbed. A automatically knew it was coming from the bathroom, specifically the shower, so she closed the bathroom door and walked backwards, making sure to keep her eyes on the door to make sure it wouldn't swing back open and whoever this was wasn't charging at her. Turning off the bedroom light, eye still trained on that door, and shutting the bedroom door as well, turning around, A noticed that the door was wide open. Her stomach dropped and a chill ran up her spine. Nausea bubbled up into her gut, and everything was setting in. Someone was in the house, or rather something. She slammed the back door shut and bolted back to her room, locking the door behind her. Being so mortified, A put in headphones to drown out any more noise of whatever was there could make, and resumed her video games as a distraction. That was the last encounter A has ever had with whatever that thing was. She thinks the creature outside her window was the one in her closet scratching at the door and the house mimicking your sister. I don't doubt that, but in my head, the mimicking sound more like a skinwalker. I'm Native American and have grown up to those kind of stories, as my dad had some experience with them. So naturally, that's what it sounds like to me, but I don't know. A also believes it could be some extraterrestrial being like an alien or something. Nothing else has happened besides a few unrelated supernatural encounters for A, but she feels terrified if anything reminds her of this experience, and sends her into a more primal fear, fight or flight mode that verges on a borderline panic attack. Every time I hear this story, personally, it makes me want to shit bricks. This happened to me sometime in July of 2013. I woke up at around 2 to 3 a.m. and I couldn't fall back to sleep. I started looking around my room. I was contemplating getting up and going on my computer, but I was too lazy. So I laid there until something caught my attention. My door was slightly open, so I could see just a little bit. Before I tell you what I saw, let me give you a quick picture of what my house looked like back then. When you exited my room, there was this long hallway. In the middle of it, to the left, was an entrance to the kitchen, and then right in front of it, to the right, was a door to the bathroom. At the end of the hallway back then was the front door with a little window on top, so the moonlight kind of seeped in. It must have been a full moon or at least close to it, because I could see the hallway was decently lit. Anyway, what caught my attention was the small head peeking out at me behind the slightly open door. It was really close to the ground. At first I really didn't think much of it, and after a short while I thought to myself it must be my dog. My dog is Maltese. He's small, and back then he used to sleep above my head on my pillow, so I reached my hand up to see if he was there. He's there. Sure enough, he was sleeping. That's when I kind of got confused. We didn't have any other small animals in the house, and I lived with my mom and grandpa. Both of them were asleep, and I'm sure they wouldn't peek at me in the middle of the night on what seemed to be all fours. So I quickly looked back at the door, and I saw the thing hide behind the door. I don't know how long I laid there in shock, but I eventually decided to get up and investigate, aka run to my mom's room. I quickly got up and ran to the light switch, turned on the light, and fully opened the door, and when I did, I saw this thing's legs. It was entering the kitchen. It was on all fours, and it didn't run. It seemed like it didn't even care. Its movement was slow, kind of like a casual walk. Its skin was grayish, and it looked like it was dirty. It had black spots on it, maybe dirt, I don't know. Its legs were skinny and lanky. Once again, I was paralyzed. I don't even know if I was scared at the moment. I think I was just in shock at what I was seeing. When it disappeared into the kitchen, I ran into the bathroom and locked myself in there. I didn't come out for a long time, and when I did, there was nothing there. Nobody woke up either, not even my dog. He always chases people when they run. I have no idea what it was. All I know for sure was I wasn't dreaming. I'll never forget the feeling in my stomach when I saw this thing. This happened in DeLonga, Georgia, in November of 2003. I was leaving church one night just after dark. As I came to a stop at the end of the driveway, I saw a hairless humanoid creature walking across the road about 11 yards to my right. There was a nearby streetlight, so I could see it fairly clearly. It had completely normal human shape, and a tan, leathery-looking skin, and no clothing at all. It was the size of a 4-year-old child and walked like a normal human. At first I just saw it from the side, but when it was most of the way across the road, it turned to look at me. Upon turning its head towards me, I could see that it had no eyes, nose, or lips. It had smooth indentions where the eyes should have been, a smooth, slight protrusion where the nose should have been, and nothing where the mouth should have been. It also had no noticeable ears. It did not respond to me other than looking at me for 2 seconds. It continued on, straight on its path, a small embankment, and into the woods. As it climbed up the embankment, it crawled on all fours the same way a human might when climbing a steep hill. It was walking from the direction of a gravel road, Lee Anderson Road, between a pump/well business and an old barn. It walked across the Cavender Creek Road and into the woods on the other side, in the direction of Ricketts Lake. The area has lots of hay fields, woods, hills, and creeks. Further north is a national forest. I haven't told many people about this because it makes me sound crazy. People think I'm making it up or I was on drugs. Neither is true. I have searched for similar sightings for years and I haven't come across anything that resembles what I saw. My hypothesis is that it might live in a cave somewhere close by. There are plenty of caves in that area and that could explain why it had no eyes. Some people say that it may have been an alien. I doubt this because it was not carrying anything at all and was not startled upon seeing me. Seems like if it was an alien that had wandered far from its craft, it would have been carrying something for protection, navigation, or collecting samples. These videos are intended to bring about awareness to the dark side of the world we live in. As a reality of life, violent crimes happen every day in our neighborhoods. Keep your loved ones safe. And remember to say I love you. If you liked the video, remember to like and subscribe. And remember, watch your back.